Hey, what's up, camera friends? Just wanted to quick come at you with a moment around an instant camera, an instant film camera by Polaroid that is the SX-70 Sonar. So this camera by Retrospekt is where this particular version is coming from, and I purchased used from an individual because I had been shooting on an SX-70, a traditional non-autofocus SX-70, shooting that slower speed film, that 160 film, and I saw this camera on a used site shooting a faster film speed, that 600 speed film, also with an autofocus motor built in. So a lot of the same amazing, elegant architecture of the SX-70 series cameras, which give us just really beautiful, basic design that performs so well in the field. So this one, again, by Retrospekt, is shooting that faster film speed, but the architecture of the camera is very similar to my other SX-70. So bellows and a interior architecture of the camera which really gives us a single lens reflex feel, focusing screen, because when we are using this camera, what the lens sees, that image content is bounced around on the interior of the camera itself and then fed through the viewfinder. So when you look through the viewfinder on the camera, you have a very familiar feel. I shoot a lot of single lens reflex cameras and I love mirrors and prisms just so much. I just love seeing them. Mirrorless cameras are great and I understand that they have a place, and all of that. Rangefinder cameras also have a particular kind of way about them and love a lot of the aspects, but for me, mirrors and prisms really are special. So with this camera, we get that kind of experience. The other thing that we get from this type of experience from a technical standpoint is that what you see is what prints out. You're not dealing with parallax lines, you're not dealing with an offset viewfinder. In the case of more rangefindery style cameras, this is not true of mirrorless tech, but you know, so that's something that is a real advantage to this camera. Setup of the camera itself, very basic. Shutter actuation button here, which also acts as the trigger mechanism for the autofocus. You want to put your subject that you want in focus dead center, depress the shutter actuation button slightly, acquire focus, then you can recompose, and that focus lock maintains focus on your subject. And then when you depress the button fully, you're taking a shutter actuation and you're producing your print. There is a small lever on the autofocus mechanism which you can manipulate, which will then engage the the manual focus wheel on the face of the camera. And then there is an exposure compensation dial on the side here, which is very basic and straight up, but takes a lot of time and experience to really dial in it, but you can make your image brighter or less bright depending on what you're going for and what your lighting conditions kind of look like and the mood you want to kind of evoke with your image, right? So port on the top of the autofocus motor for a flash bar in the event that you want to add more light, and down on the bottom of the camera is a threaded port for a tripod plate. So you want to set this up on a tripod, longer exposures, these kinds of things, then you have the capacity to do that. So pretty much everything that you would be looking for in a very basic, elegant design. And I can't emphasize enough how much I love the engineering and just the aesthetic and design concepts that are happening with this camera. It's a joy to shoot with. Lock bar on the side, you toggle that out of the way, the whole camera collapses, and we have this briefcase style. The sonar mechanism does jut up and make it a little bit taller than my SX-70, which this is kind of where the traditional SX-70 ends. You don't have this extra structure, but the gains of the autofocus mechanism, I'm happy to have that extra structure up there. It's not really a big deal. Strap places on the rear of the camera, just a really beautiful camera that produces such great instant film pictures. And by great, I mean, I recognize that the nuances of instant film mean that you're not always quote unquote successful with your image production, but I recognize that the flaws and the troubles with instant film are part of what make it such a beautiful experience overall. And when you're ready to open it, viewfinder pop up, come over here to the side, the same mechanism that we used for collapsing, we pop into place and our camera is locked into an open position. Loading film is done. I have film in the camera right now, so I'm not going to do this, but to press this button, the front of the camera structure opens and your battery pack slash film pack, because this is charged by the battery pack. The camera doesn't function if it doesn't have a battery or a battery slash film pack in it. That pops down and you remove that cartridge. So I am a big fan of this camera, huge fan of this camera. I think if anybody's considering getting this tool and can find it for a price point that makes sense for that individual, for what they're doing with their instant film photography, then I would say jump on this and get this camera into your lineup, because it's a real peach of an instant camera. So, huge fan, SX-70 Sonar, Polaroid, retrofitted by Retrospekt. Beautiful piece of photography equipment. So elegant, so amazing. So that's a real quick one just on this piece of equipment. I plan on doing some other things with my Polaroid cameras, so stay tuned for more about that. Okay, everybody, peace out. Catch you next time.